Alright guys, back from Florida. I had to take a week off, go burn all of my epidural layer off, but I'm back and there's some pretty cool stuff waiting in the post office box. The first is a challenge lock. I wish they all came in these neat little, I don't even know what this was originally in, maybe some earphones, but Brent Collier packed up his very first challenge lock in here. You can see here's the key. He says the key does work. It's mummied as you see there. He says it does work. Take some jiggling. You got to lift it and push it up to the top, but it does work. I did pull it out and play with the core a little bit. Have not picked it. It looks kind of floppy, so no telling what Brent's got up inside of there. But we got some new tools to attack it with. Let me go ahead and clamp it up in the vise, and then we'll take a look at these cool new tools. See if I can remember how to do this after a week of laying on the beach. All right, first new set of tools is from Christina Palmer. These are some wave rakes. She's been working on these for about 2 years, and she designed them and is trying to get Tool, T-O-O-O-L, to produce them for her. These are prototypes. She sent me these to try out. The bottom one is called the quarter wave rake, and it's kind of like a Bogota with an extra hump. You can see a little bit of variation in there. And the top one is called a quin rake, or a 1/5 wave rake. And that one's supposed to be really effective against best locks. We're going to find out if they are effective against this one. The other pick I'm going to try, and I'm very happy to get this one. This is from Marted. He sent it in this nice little velvet bag, beautifully packaged, and it is a DeForest ball. He says, I saw you had a DeForest diamond, thought you might like to have a DeForest ball that I made. And it is a full shank, and these are aluminum handles. I don't know how he bound these, how he tied those on there, or glued them or whatever, but very solid, and I think it's probably going to give some pretty good feedback. Again, we're going to use this to attack this lock, see if we can get inside of there. So, see if I can find a tension wrench. It is a Schlage, so we can use top of the keyway, 50 thousandths, beautiful fit, and look how floppy that is. Man. Alright, well, we got what we got. Let me see if this will fit. It does. The 15 thousandths slides into most Schlages without too much trouble past that little piece of warding on the right. Any thicker than 15 thousand, it just won't work. Wow, I'm telling you, I'm having a little trouble counting here because we got some, I think there's 5, but there are 2 very powerful springs in there that are just not yielding. I'm pretty sure there's 5. We'll pick them all, however many there are. Let me make sure there's nothing, no weirdness on the bottom, and I don't feel anything. All right, let's give it a shot. May not be the right tension. Here we go. Okay, well, I can tell you right now it's probably all spool-like because we get a lot of floppiness here, so we'll be looking for a fault set. So I'm going to go typical, very predictable bill all the way in. Very light tension, and let's just see what we got here. I got to click on 5, click on 3, very light click. I don't have a fault set yet. Okay, that was 5 again. I got another click on him. Okay, there's some crunchiness in it. I'm on pin 4. I'm getting the tiniest of feedbacks on the wrench, on the tension wrench, but he doesn't want to give. So I'm thinking it's a spool and probably caught up, so I'm going to lighten up the tension. And I think I might have overset him. I got another click and a very slight fault set. Now oh man, I thought that was open. Okay, that was pin 3. We have a very deep fault set. I'm looking for more feedback. Again, it's probably a very deep spool. I'm on pin 1. I have some counter rotation. Okay, it's hung up, so I'm going to have to lighten up on the tension. I'm still getting that counter rotation, so I'm going to have to lighten up even more. And there we go. All right, very deep spools in this thing, I can tell you that. And I thought I felt some serrations, but the biggest challenge here are the springs, I think. You probably noticed how I was almost bending that 15,000. So another little tip he gave me in the note. He says, do not turn it 180 degrees. And he says, pay attention when you open it. So let's pay attention. I love these clips. Okay, let's see if this will work. All right, let's use the eBay tool. I'm probably just going to have to stretch this one and bend him out of the way. There we go. Oops. Almost turned that exactly the way we didn't want to go. I'm going to unzoom the camera a little bit so the autofocus will work a little better. Move some stuff out of the way. Ooh, oh man, shouldn't have set him down like that. All right, let's find a way to turn this so that we're not at 180 and we're also not locked back up. Christina, I'm sorry, I thought we were going to get to rake, but it came open so quick I didn't have a chance to rake. But let's see what we got in here. Make sure we're all lined up, and we're hung up on something already. See if we can push it back. Yeah. So something is getting caught up in that groove right there. So, way we get around that, I'm going to slide a shim to bridge that gap. So we're going to add another variable to this already risky situation. Try it again. And the shim is now hung up on something. So let's just push them all the way in. See if that works. There we go. Okay, there are 5, and I'm already seeing some nastiness. First of all, I'm seeing threads on every single hole, and when you look down in there, you can see pin 3, there's a reverse T-pin. It's probably part of that key pin, and it also looks to be a reduced diameter. So, raking probably wouldn't have helped us a lot. Okay, there's our very sharp spool. Another very sharp spool. And our reverse T-pin. Very sharp spool. And another one. Okay, all definitely threaded. I don't see any undercutting there on either side. Nice sharp threads in there. Let's see what we got upstairs. Okay, let's go ahead and pull the shim out. And see what we got here. Okay, there's a very, oops, let me tilt this up just a little bit. A very sharp spool sticking there. It looks like reduced diameter as well. Oh, very powerful spring. In fact, I think there were 2 springs in there. Okay, let's see the second one. Another pretty powerful spring, very, very sharp. Let me pull that spring out of the way. Oh, that popped out. I dropped him and he fell in there again. Another very sharp spool, and looks like another, that one might be a steel spring. That one's a very long steel spring. Number 4 is, you can see he started to pop up. It's a T-pin, reverse T-pin, designed to get caught up in our shear line, and he did a pretty good job. And his spring is a very small, I told you there was some wide variation, so we got to look at half spring there. And the last, come out wherever you are. I did not see anything pop out of there. There is, if you look down in there, you can see something down in the hole. There's something there. He's just a little bit springy, but he's well below that shear line. Let's turn him over and see what happens. There he is right there. Just fell out. What an ugly little pin that is. And we got a bunch of wafers, and the rest of the springs are now starting to fall. So we had a very tiny, looks like a copper spring there, and a wafer to hold that guy in place. So he was basically a drunken spool. I don't know, I'm guessing because of he was down below the shear line, it probably had that very short spring in him. Put him where he belongs. So we had a wafer, and then this little guy was pointing back the other way, like that. And I think that pin 5 probably had too short of a spring. That's my guess, because he was not even reaching up to the shear line. The rest of them right at the shear line, it let everything grab up just exactly the way it was supposed to, but pin 5 I do not believe had enough of a spring inside of there. Anyway, here's what we're looking at. So we have homemade on every single pin. Every single one of these is homemade. The really nasty ones, though, are when you get something like this that gets hung up in the shear line very, very easily, and you think you got a very deep fault set, and in fact you're overset. I probably got lucky on him, to be honest. This guy here does the same thing, except in reverse. You get a very deep fault set, you think he's a spool, and then if you overset him, it looks like Brent had set it up so that if you overset, you would get a very deep fault set, but it would be hung up on the key pin. On this guy, another one, drunken spool, pretty nasty. The pinning on this one, let me grab these springs. These are, every single one of these springs is different. Okay, he's actually not too bad. He's not too bad. This is a pretty strong spring, and then these two guys obviously very, very weak. So give a wide variation in spring tension, and also a lot of feedback in the threaded core. Let me take a look here. Oh yeah, should have looked at this earlier. I can see some threading in there already. It looks like pin, let's see, chamber 1. It looks, and I don't know why, it looks like chamber 1 has actually been widened a little bit, and it's got threads in it. Chamber 2 is just, and 3 have both been threaded. Chamber 4 is threaded, and it looks like chamber 5, nothing in there at all. So they've all been modded in some way except for chamber number 5. Anyway, Brent, great job. I think the only change I would make is put a slightly larger spring in chamber number 5 to really bring that drunken spool into play. I think it would have been a little bit more difficult than it was trying to fight past him. Other than that, man, great job, great lock. Appreciate the time you put into it. Everybody else, stay safe, stay legal. I know you give me a week off and I forget everything. Here's what the key looks like. I already cut the black nasty off. There's your 5-pinner, and then you notice we have one high cut pin hiding behind those 3 low cut ones in the front. So not too bad if you can pick from the bottom of the keyway. And we were lucky enough to be able to do that with Madden Mart's 15,000ths DeForest ball. Something about this key I'd like to point out. Most keys do have a code number here, and the code number, you have to have a special book to look it up to translate the code number into what the actual code is. This one seems to be the exact coding. So we got 55425, and that's what we have here, 55425. So if you find yourself with a key that someone, from a security standpoint, this is horrible because you know exactly what you're picking. So if you find yourself with a key with the coding stamped on there, I would advise you go ahead and grind that off so it doesn't make, if someone's trying to pick it, don't make their job easy. So grind those or disfigure some of those in some way so they can't direct read your code. Anyway, fellas, there's a key. Sorry about the screwing up, but sometimes vacation does that to you. Just killed too many brain cells, guys.